Islam is rising quietly across the Western world, from the suburbs of Paris to the skyline of New York, from the London to Los Angeles. More people than ever are identifying as Muslims, or at least seeking to understand Islam. This is not just a story of numbers, it is a story of transformation, of identity, of faith, and of what it means to be part of the global Ummah in the 21st century. Now let's start at the beginning. Islam's story in the West didn't begin with modern immigration. It began centuries earlier with those who were brought to America against their will. Historians estimate that around 10 to 15% of enslaved Africans brought to colonial America were Muslim. Many remembered Quranic verses by heart. Some prayed secretly in the fields. They couldn't carry a copy of the Quran, but they carried its light. Later, in the late 1800s and early 1900s, Muslim immigrants from the Ottoman Empire, South Asia, and the Middle East began arriving in the United States. They built the first mosque in places like Iowa, North Dakota, and Michigan, symbols of faith in unfamiliar lands. Across the Atlantic, in Europe, Islam's roots were already deep. Muslim communities had existed for centuries in the Balkans, among Albanians, Bosniaks, and Tatars. But the large-scale growth came after World War II, when Europe invited labor from Turkey, North Africa, and South Asia to rebuild the cities. And from that moment, Islam became a permanent part of the Western landscape. Let's look at what the data shows. In the United States, Muslims now make up about 1.3% of the population, roughly 4.5 million people. The number of mosques has risen by more than 30% since 2010. In Europe, Muslims make up nearly 5% of the total population, but in countries like France and Belgium, the number is closer to 10%. And by 2050, Muslims could be represent up to 1 in 10 Europeans. Behind every statistics are stories of immigrants, converts, families, and communities building roots. Mosques, halal shops, Islamic schools, these are not just religious spaces. They are signs that Islam has woven itself into the fabric of Western society. Now let's talk about why Islam is growing. Demographics are part of it. Muslim families tend to be younger with higher birth rates. Migration also plays a role. From Syria, Iraq, Afghanistan, and North Africa, millions have sought safety and opportunity in Europe and America. But there's something deeper. Across the West, thousands of people are embracing Islam every year. They come from every walk of life: doctors, artists, students, former priests, people searching for purpose, for peace, for faith that makes sense of modern chaos. Surveys in the US suggest that about 1 in 4 Muslims today is convert. That's remarkable. Of course, this rise comes with the challenges, debates over secularism, identity, and cultural belonging. Islamophobia and political popularism often test the patience of communities. Yet, through all of it, the call to prayer continues to echo softly but surely in cities that once never imagined hearing it. So, what does all of this mean for the global Ummah? First, it widens the horizon of Islam. Muslims are no longer limited to the East. They are teachers, leaders, and voices in the heart of the Western world. This brings opportunities to engage, to represent, to show what Islam truly is through action, not slogans. Second, it adds responsibility. For Muslims living in the West, every act carries weight. A kind gesture, honest business, community service, these become silent forms of dawah. Third, it tests unity. Muslims in the West are incredibly diverse: African, Arab, South Asian, Latino, European. But as the Prophet ﷺ said, the believers are like one body. If one part aches, the whole body responds. Our strength will depend on whether that unity becomes real, beyond culture, beyond language. Let's look at two snapshots. In Europe, Muslims are young, with a median age around 30 compared to 43 for non-Muslims. That means Europe's future will be shaped by its Muslim youth, ambitious, educated, and bilingual. But integration remains a struggle. In France, debates over hijab and secularism persist. In the UK, Muslims are rising in politics, business, academia, but still fighting stereotypes. In America, Islam is one of the most ethnically diverse faiths. About a quarter of Muslims are African American, another quarter South Asian, nearly 20% Arab, and a growing number of Latino. No single race is a majority, and that reflects Islam's universality. It is a faith that speaks to the human soul, not to any one culture. Looking forward, by 2050, Islam is projected to nearly match Christianity as the world's largest faith. In the West, growth will continue, not through conquest or pressure, but through conviction and truth. But growth without depth is hollow. The Ummah needs educated scholars, visionary youth, balanced leadership. It needs Muslims who live Islam, not just believe in it. Muslims who embody mercy, integrity, and service. For young Muslims in the West, the mission is not to choose between faith and modern life, but to merge them, to live Islam confidently, intelligently, and compassionately. The rise of Islam in America and Europe is more than a statistics. It's a sign of resilience, of renewal, and of Allah's promise that His light will never be extinguished. It reminds us that Islam is not bound of geography. It lives wherever hearts submit to the Creator. The Adhan may sound different in London, New York, or Toronto, but its message is eternal. Come to prayer, come to success. And as Islam rises in the West, so does our duty to live with purpose, to speak with truth, and to serve with mercy.